Our guests today are Jeff Russell and Bill McMillen. Jeff is a longtime Libertarian activist and the current state chair of the Libertarian Party. Bill is also a longtime activist, former state chair, former Capital District chair. Actually, Jeff was also former Capital District chair. I'd like to start with just trying to get a little information about the Libertarian Party and libertarianism in general. Jeff, tell us a little bit about the Libertarian Party history and what it's about.
Well, the Libertarian Party was formed in the early 1970s, I think 1972, and it was formed by people who were disgruntled with the politics of the Democrats and Republicans, and they decided to form a new political party they called the Libertarian Party. I think it was Denver, Colorado, where it was formed, a guy named Don Ernstberger and David Nolan. And basically it combines some elements of both parties, I guess. It's neither conservative nor liberal. We like to think of ourselves as above the line.
Okay. Bill, does the Libertarian Party have any fundamental principles that set it apart from the other major parties?
Yeah, the primary principle is that every individual has a right to live their life as they see fit, and that a corollary of that is that they have to respect the rights of other people as well. And the only purpose of government really is to try to preserve that relationship amongst people, to arbitrate disputes between people when they occur, but there are no other legitimate roles for government.
Okay. Now, the Libertarian Party's been around since '72, so that's about
35 years.
35 years. And have they had any success in moving our country towards libertarianism, or has the party had any electoral success, or how do you measure success anyway?
Well, that's a good question. There has been some limited success. There have been actually several hundred libertarians around the country have actually won public office. Everything, from school board up to mayor, and even a couple of state legislators. In Alaska, there were a couple of state legislators. In New Hampshire, there were some state legislators who were elected. And there are several hundred libertarians who are actually serving in public office right now. So by that standard, there have been some successes.
And has there been much success in New York State?
Not in New York State, unfortunately. We've actually only had, I think, one woman who was actually on the Libertarian line who was elected. I don't even remember.
Okay, that's all right. I was just wanted to get
the measure of success really is it depends upon what your goals are, and our goal is not so much to rule or to hold the seats of power as it is to change the debate, to refocus the debate. And I think that that if you don't speak out, if you don't express the principles that we believe in, then you're defeated. That you have successes just by participating in the process, and that's what we've been doing on a regular basis for 35 years.
Okay. Let me get my other question. I have particular interest in some New York State issues, and they're current to New York, and they've been promoted by our governor, who a lot of times people think of Libertarian Party as anti-government, I think, but there are occasions when our leaders actually propose ideas that may have some value, and we think that may push us in the right direction. One of those is our Governor Spitzer's recent idea to try to consolidate layers of government. I'm not sure if you heard his proclamation that he was forming a committee to try to consolidate the government layers. One of the issues that goes along with that is the taxing, the level of taxation that we have in New York State. One of the highest in the country. According to the Tax Freedom Foundation, our New York State is second highest in the level of taxation in the country. Our Tax Freedom Day, the day that we stop working to pay our taxes, is May 16th. We work up to that point to pay our taxes. New York State has 4,200 taxing authorities right now, and because of it's an old state, it's developed many layers of hierarchy, and there's reasons for that, historical reasons. But what do you think the chances are, or what do you think about his idea of consolidating government? What are the pluses and minuses to that idea?
Well, I think there is definitely pluses and minuses, and the answer that one would have to that question today is different than one would have 30 or 40 years ago. At a point in time where you have more and more of your services, like it or not, being administered at a higher level of government, state rather than local, it does become a matter of where your local governments become superfluous. And there's absolutely no reason why you should be funding both levels of government when one level of government has taken control of a particular service. One of the things, and it's a very complicated issue, but the whole idea of education being something that's funded locally through local school taxes. I'm not sure really where the funding should come from, or not recommending any particular one, but it's a fact that the state, as well as now the national government, is more and more involved in determining the direction of our educational pursuits and the quality of the education. And I think that we do have too many layers of government with regard to that. So I think some consolidation is necessary. The problem with that is anytime you do some consolidation like that, you may be conceivably depriving people of some local control that they should maintain.
Jeff, what about the issue of jobs too? We have a recent example of an attempt to do some consolidation in the town of Bern, I believe it was, the highway department. It was actually put before the voters an opportunity to consolidate the town's highway department with the Albany counties, and the voters voted it down. They had a chance to actually lower their taxes by that consolidation, and they chose not to go that way. And I believe it was because their perception that they would lose local control and also possibly lose jobs. And there's a lot of upstate New York now where if you take a drive across, the only industry left is the government itself, and they provide the largest percentage of jobs. How can we overcome that obstacle? Is there a way?
Well, I think part of it is taxation. You mentioned all the taxing agencies. I think that's one of the things that drives businesses and jobs out of New York State is the fact that we have such a high tax rate. And it also comes down to there's a lot of red tape. Some people call it government regulation, but I just call it red tape, where there's a lot that has to be done. There's a lot of paperwork that has to be filled out. A lot of hoops have to be jumped through. Anyone who tries to run a small business knows the problems that they have if they don't get the right licensing and the right permits. And there's always the fear that the government could come in at any time and get you for any small, little thing that they don't like you for. So I think that's one of the things driving jobs out of the state at the moment.
I guess it's sort of a chicken and egg problem. Is what we have to lower taxes in order to encourage the industry to move, and then when we do lower taxes and consolidate, there could be people lose jobs in the interim, and that's going to be something that somebody's going to have to come up with a good plan to.
If I may basically, challenge the concept that government provides jobs. Government may sustain some jobs that there no longer is an economic purpose for, but the need to clear the roads of snow is something. The fact the snow is what provides the jobs. That the government there has just decided that they're going to be the ones that control the process. And with regard to the particular example that you cited, the roads that the village takes care of are being traveled over by the state equipment when they get from one place to another, and it does appear to be a duplication of services or a duplication of energy. And I really think it's probably up to the local people to decide whether they want to save those jobs and pay higher taxes, or whether they want to accept that they can all save a little bit of money and perhaps free up some people for the labor market that might fill some jobs that are going unfilled. And there are jobs that go unfilled.
Okay. Bill mentioned the subject of the school taxes, and Joe Bruno, our state senator, local state senator, has, and actually Senate Majority Leader, has suggested shifting the school tax burden to the state. And he believes that he can fund that school taxes, provide school funding from existing state revenues. Although he didn't give a lot of detail, just exactly where that money would come from. From a libertarian point of view, libertarians support the idea of private property. Property taxes are problematic because in essence, they're paying rent for your property to the state, to the government. What do you think about that plan to shift the taxes to the state government? Is that a good plan?
I think it's neither inherently good or bad. That's what makes it good or bad is not what level of government administers it. There may be one level that is better at it, from a technical point of view, where they can perform it better. But that could change over time. At one time the local government might do a better job. At another time the state government might do a better job. But I think that what we have to look at is really how are we funding it. Right now the way we fund our education process is we fund schools. And I think the solution to the problem is to stop funding schools and to start funding the students, and to just when we have our education budget, just provide the money to the students and let them use that money to decide what schools they want to attend. If they want to attend one of the public schools in their neighborhood, that's fine. If there's a public school in another neighborhood that they want to attend, I think that's fine. If they want to use the money to attend a private school somewhere, I think that's fine too. But I think as long as we fund schools rather than students, that we're looking at the problem from the wrong point of view.
That's a good point, Jeff. I was really looking, and I want to get back to that, but I was really looking at the philosophical issue of whether eliminating property taxes was an incremental step towards more freedom. It was a good step in and of itself, beyond the issue of where the property taxes go. Maybe it's not that important an issue. So let's stick with with the funding of schools, and that's something that, again, locally in the Albany area, in the capital area, we face to a large extent because of the large number of charter schools. We have a lot of outrage in the public school community about the charter schools because especially in the city of Albany, where the biggest concentration is, where we have a large percentage of the budget going towards the charter schools, some of which have been very successful. Is it Brighter Choice that we heard speak at the Brighter Choice schools? And then some of the schools are not doing as well. New Covenant, I believe, basically went broke and are struggling to stay open. How do we get out of this issue where the schools are competing for this limited budget? I mean, the way it's been implemented seems to have some problems to me right now. I mean, the only resolution I can see is if all the schools were charter schools, in the sense that Jeff suggests the money follows the students, so that all schools were allowed to fail like New Covenant did. And that seems to me to be the problem. The crux of it is that the public schools, the existing public schools in the city, can't fail. In fact, the city built an additional middle school at the same time children were going to leaving the public schools to go to the charter school. Do you have any?
Well, I agree with Jeff's approach to funding through the students, empower the students to choose the schools and empower their parents to choose the schools, and I think that becomes the driving force behind a better education. With regard to the funding, I think that at the local level, the funding, which is based upon the property tax, it's directed money that goes into the school budget, the local school budget. We've had a great deal of state aid that has gone to the various school districts of the state.
I believe it's about half the budget.
Yes, and it's It's interesting that many of the proposals to fund education have passed, including the sales tax. That was primarily for education. That was how it was sold. The gambling, government-supported gambling, lottery is supposed to go toward education. And yet, when you look beyond the local level, when you look at the state level, what you really have is you have one big pot of money for the politicians to disperse the way they want to. And that any time they want to increase the debt of New York State through borrowing, they look to find some sort of cause to present to the voters on some sort of bond issue. Back in the 50s and 60s, it used to be highway. That was the primary way to get a bond proposal put through, and those funds were diverted from the highway. The various other proposals that they've made in the 70s, 80s, and 90s have had to do with education, and that money's been diverted to a great deal to other programs, to Pork Barrel. And it's really, that becomes one of the issues as to whether you tax locally or whether you tax statewide, is that locally you do have a designated budget that's designed for the school.
And some more accountability.
Yes.
Well, Joe tells us there's no new taxes. He's going to fund it. No bonds, no taxes, no nothing. Magic. One of the other big issues that we face, the Libertarians face, as a party, a political party, is the election laws and the campaign laws about in New York State. Elliot Spitzer has, for a number of years, advocated campaign reform, election law reform, and I see it as a double-edged sword. That there's really two parts to it. One is the election law reform. New York State has the latest 2007 version. I just downloaded a PDF today, and it's, I think, 868 pages long, something like that, and actually points to a number of other laws and regulations within that guide. The other part of the election reform is campaign finance reform, where there are advocates, in particular Elliot Spitzer and a lot of other people, are saying we should have limits on campaign spending and also government financing for campaigns. What do you guys think about the election reform issue?
Me, you?
Take it anywhere you want.
You can start.
Wealth doesn't buy power. Basically, every individual that takes the time to exercise their franchise exercises the power. And if they want to be fooled by somebody who has a great deal of money to spend, or even be convinced by somebody that has a great deal of money to spend, that's their prerogative. That's their choice. Jeff last year ran for U.S. Senate, and a whole bunch of people that would have liked to have donated more money to him, I'm sure, would have been happy to go over the limits as far as the existing limits are concerned, as far as a contribution. Why shouldn't they be able to? They're not trying necessarily to buy any favor with Jeff should he get elected to office. The idea is that they're saying, if I was the candidate, I'd like to put all of my energy into this campaign. But I found somebody that can express my ideas better than me. So why shouldn't I be able to put all of my energy into that person's campaign? And that energy includes the energy that I exerted for the past year earning some money that now allows me to make a contribution to this candidate. There is absolutely no justification for any campaign finance restriction. Although I might make an exception, although like I said about other campaign finance, they don't work because as long as you got that magnet there, somebody's going to figure out a way to get around it. But I'd like to see a limit on contributions from anybody outside the district that is being, for the office that is being run for. I'd like to see a limit on any entity other than individuals. Only individuals can vote. Only individuals should be allowed to contribute to a politician's campaign. There'll be ways to get around that, even if it was imposed.
There's always a loophole.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. Jeff, well, actually, both of you guys have run. Jeff ran for Senate.
Yes.
Bill has
Bill
run
ran
for
Senate,
Senate.
and Congress, and
Congress.
Comptroller.
Okay. What's your personal experience with the election law and ballot access. We have some experience in our local party with that.
Well, each state is a little different, but in New York State, there are certain parties that are recognized as official political parties, and these parties are the parties whose candidate for governor got over 50,000 votes in the last election. So the Libertarian Party is not one of those parties. So we are not officially recognized in terms that we don't get an automatic line on the ballot like the Democrats and Republicans do. And what this means is that every time we want to get candidates on the ballot, we have to go out and collect signatures on a petition. And in fact, we are in the middle of a petition drive right now. There's a 6-week petition drive from the early July into late August, and we've got Libertarian candidates right now who are trying to get on the ballot. We have a couple running for mayor and one for county executive, and they're out there trying to get the required signatures. And it's not an easy thing to do because a lot of people are afraid to sign anything,
And 6 weeks in the middle of the summer.
Right, 6 weeks in the middle of the summer, it's hot out there, and you get sunstroke if you stay out there too long. And this is a problem that Democrats and Republicans don't face, and most third parties have this problem, not just in New York State, but every state around the country has some kind of petition laws where the Democrats and Republicans get on the ballot automatically, and the minor parties have to go out and collect a different number of signatures depending what the state in office is. So.
But now I understand that the law was changed recently that at least you can register as a libertarian.
You can enroll as a libertarian.
Enroll,
yes,
okay.
yes. Which provides a level of equity to us at this point in time, a small level of equity. But there's also other insurgents that are out there that this doesn't apply to. And really what we basically have is we have a problem in which that the federal and the state governments end up subsidizing the two major political parties. The idea that we're going to see next February with all of these primaries that are being run to help the Democrats and the Republicans choose their presidential candidate. Why should we have taxpayer expense elections being held to help parties choose their candidates? It's a waste of money, and it's a violation of the Constitution. There's nothing about political parties in the Constitution. It's just that the Democrats and the Republicans have changed the law to benefit themselves.
One last question on elections. Have you guys aware of the Help America Vote Act and the need for electronic voting machines in New York? Do you follow that at all? Have you followed? What do you think about the electronic voting machine issue, or do you have any opinions on it?
Well, I think you need a paper trail.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that's been lacking. I think New York, I'm not aware that New York ever had any serious problem with their election machines. Maybe in the city, but not in upstate New York. And so this idea that every state had to suddenly have computerized election was just another way to direct money by the national politicians to favored corporate entities.
I'd like to thank everybody for watching. I've got Bill McMillen, Jeff Russell. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks for having us, John.
And we
Thank
hope
you, John.
to get you guys back again to see us soon.